Hi everyone, welcome to the Missouri Teacher Development System Artisan Teacher On-Demand Learning Series. This is a series of professional learning experiences on demand where we take the artisan teacher themes, the 23 themes, and select a few of those that are most directly aligned with your MTDS competencies. Our thinking is that we spend a little bit of time on the concept of the theme, how the theme behaves in nature, what is some of the science behind it. Let's understand it as a scientific principle of learning. And then we take a little bit of time to think about how might we apply this in our actual classroom practice. And we're going to do that again today. So today's episode is centered on the artisan teacher theme, clear learning goals, right? The ability of the teacher to have in his or her mind a clear expression of exactly what do I want my students to know and be able to do 20 minutes from now, or 30 minutes from now, or 12 minutes from now. You know, it's pretty clear that the degree to which students in a classroom are successful at learning something is supported, and the foundation for that is our, as teachers, crystal clear understanding of exactly what we intend for them to learn. So clear learning goals has a lot of evidence in nature. When we think about a goal and we think about what we want something to be like in the future, we're simply just more likely to cause that to happen. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, habit number 2 was begin with the end in mind. And in the best-selling book, Dr. Covey gives lots of evidence of how just simply having a goal in our mind, just seeing what we want something to look like or be like or sound like in the future, takes several big steps in the direction of actually accomplishing that, right? He had a quote in the book that I have always remembered. Dr. Covey said this: "All things are created twice." Think about that. All things are created twice. What Dr. Covey went on to explain is that the first creation of all things is in our mind. We see it before we build it. We consider it and imagine it before we actually bring it into being. And so if we think about that as educators, it certainly does hold true for us as well. All great lessons start in the teacher's mind before the lesson exists in reality. So we know that this concept of thinking clearly about what one wants to do, really in any domain, want to lose a few pounds, want to eat better, want to exercise more, want to save more money, want to change the way you interact with your children and support them, whatever worthy goals we have, we know as a human nature principle, if we can see a picture of it clearly in our minds first, we are much more likely to accomplish it in reality. And simply stated, that's the science behind clear learning goals. Teachers are more likely to produce learning experiences that students find successful when we start with this clear picture in our mind of what will students know and what will they be able to do as a result of the experience of this lesson. Having your purpose, having your goal in your mind can be further sharpened up, we think, by writing it down. Human beings are linguistic animals. We are built to operate in the realm of words. And so there is something extra clarifying, we think, about choosing the nouns and the verbs and the modifiers and the conjunctions and all the things that give life to our goals, right? So if we have a goal in any domain, if we have it as a picture in our mind, that's a great step one. But if we can write it down and actually express and choose those parts of speech, then we know that that goal is even more effective. What I'd like to ask you to do is take a moment right now, and we're going to do a quick little think time. The video will pause. You'll click pause. It'll be gone for 15 seconds or so, but take as much time as you need. And when you're finished with this thinking prompt, then come back and join, and we'll continue with the series. So here's what I'd like to ask you to think about for a few moments. Just the concept at large. Don't think about classrooms. Don't think about standards. Don't think about targets. Don't think about objectives or actual teaching and learning goals. Think about the concept of how much more likely we are as humans to accomplish something if we visualize it first and then take that second step to write it down. You know, one of the things we know is that it brings motivation and it brings focus and it brings intentionality to our practice. What are some examples from your life outside of being a teacher where you would say, you know, yes, there is something to this principle, that thinking about it clearly and writing down the description of it makes it much more likely that I'll be able to accomplish it. See you back in a moment. Welcome back. Thanks for your good engagement in work. We always want to use that sequence in our on-demand learning series. Let's look at the principle and deepen our understanding of the concept and the science behind it and how it works in nature. And then let's specifically apply it to our classroom practice. You know, our company, Rutherford Learning Group, we have a written mission statement. I know many of you have a written personal mission statement. Just about every company, every organization has taken some steps to do what we just thought about, right? Take our purposes, take what we want to accomplish and create a mental image of it that motivates us, and also to put it into writing. You know, our mission is to significantly enhance the quality of education for children and youth through the personal and professional development of educators. That's Rutherford Learning Group's mission statement. Has been for many years. We look at it regularly, but hardly ever change it. You know, when you write something down, when you take the time, whether it's as a company or as a teacher in a classroom, and we take the time to carefully choose those parts of speech and construct that statement, I think what it does, maybe one of the main benefits, is it helps us in our lives to correctly pronounce the word no. A mission, a goal, is something you've said ahead of time, yes, I want to accomplish that. And there's something about taking a proactive yes that then makes no a little easier to hold on to as a concept. Since I've already said yes to this and this and this, I can't do everything. So I'm going to have to say no to that and that and that. It's counterintuitive, I think, but sometimes I think having a clear learning goal in the classroom and having a well thought out and written down purpose statement for our lives, it helps us to be more effective, but it also helps us to not spin our wheels and not spend time doing things that just aren't aligned with our mission statement. You know, teaching is such a complex act, and when you're in the middle of a classroom segment, teachers are making dozens of decisions every minute. And so one of the things we know about a teacher, you, me, when we're on a roll, when we're working with our class, we're just making decisions like this. Bang, 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 bang. We're not thinking consciously about, I think now I'll look to the left and make eye contact with this student in the second row. It's happening at the speed of school. So you're making decision, 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 decision. In the midst of all of those quick-paced decisions, having a learning goal operates at the subconscious level as well as at the conscious level. So what is it? We think maybe 60 to 70% of what a teacher does in a segment of teaching is not done in a pre-planned conscious decision. It's you're caught up in the flow of the classroom and you're making decisions too quickly to think about them consciously. You're making them subconsciously. One of the elements that really helps with clear learning goals is if I have my goal well established, then once the complexity sets in and once the lesson is underway, it turns out that even if I'm not thinking about the goal intentionally at this moment, I end up doing things that are aligned to that goal. Having the goal in my mind before I start the lesson causes the subconscious behaviors of me, the teacher, to align with the conscious behaviors of me. We end up just being a little more focused when we do that. Let's look at 4 success principles to work with when we're taking clear learning goals into the classroom and working with classroom practice. So the first of those 4 goals is that a learning goal, I know this sounds obvious, a learning goal should describe learning. A learning goal should, in most cases, not describe activities. So if I were to write on the whiteboard in my classroom, 9 o'clock in the morning, we're going to do a cooperative learning map activity. That's called an agenda, right? And there's nothing wrong with writing down what you're going to do first and second and third, but technically that's not a clear learning goal. A learning goal, right, refers to and describes the student's learning, not the classroom designs or activities or technologies or groupings that we have in mind to accomplish that goal. If we allow ourselves to let activity sneak into our learning goals, then what happens is we open up the possibility that a student might accomplish the activity, but not learn the learning that we had in mind, right? So that's why a learning goal should talk about the student's learning. Students will identify, students will be able to describe, students will be able to solve. When we talk about learning goals like that, we're taking it out of the realm of the activity. Success principle number 2, clear verbs drive learning goals. There's a diagram in your artist and teacher field guide, and I've got here, let's just look at it for a moment. I think it'll help us. When we think of a learning target in a classroom, so there's a picture of a target, here's the goal that we're working on at this moment in the classroom. I think it's helpful to remember that generally our nouns describe the content that we want students to learn, and it's our verbs that describe their performance, right? Nouns describe the content, the curriculum, the standard. Verbs describe what do we want them to do with the content. Do we want them to recall it? Do we want them to apply it? Do we want them to synthesize it? Do we want them to be able to analyze it? Of the two, since our nouns and our content are described for us in a lot of our curriculum documents, this one right here, this tends to be the key look for. How clear are our verbs? When I get a chance to go into classrooms and watch teachers ply their craft, and when I get the chance to watch you do what you do so well, one of the things I make a habit of looking for is if you've expressed a learning goal somewhere in your classroom on a whiteboard or on a goal sheet, my eyes go directly to the verbs, right? How clear are those verbs? One of the little shortcuts we can take as teachers to help us be clearer in our learning goals is to sharpen up our verbs, right? A verb should be able to pass what we call the "Hey Dad, watch me" test, or "Hey Mom, watch me" test, either way, right? So if I have written on the board, today students will learn to appreciate the complexities of the federal government. What's my verb there? Appreciate. Hey Dad, watch me appreciate the complexities of the federal government. That'd be hard to do, wouldn't it? What would I actually be looking at? So appreciate is a great word, but it's not a very clear verb. Hey Dad, watch me list the 3 branches of the federal government and explain in my own words how each branch coexists and provides a check and balance for the other 2 branches. Now that's something I could see, right? I could watch someone do that. I know it's a bit of a soft touch, but remember, keep that in mind. Hey Mom, hey Dad, watch me. Say your verb. If it doesn't sound like something you could actually watch, then maybe go back to that verb and sharpen it up. Make it a little bit more clear. Becoming kind of a verb addict is not a bad idea if you really want to work on the notion of clear learning goals. The third principle we know is that a clear learning goal should pervade the lesson and not only begin the lesson. So it's pretty common practice, isn't it, to start a lesson with referring to, here's what we're going to be doing today, and here's what I hope we'll learn, and here's how we're going to do it. Almost everyone begins a lesson with a clear learning goal. Second step, to even be more effective, return to that goal several times throughout the lesson. Let the learning goal pervade the lesson. Refer back to it. Remind students why we're doing what we're doing. Go back and say, now we're going to do this. And the reason we're going to do this is because this is aligned to this part of our learning goal that we talked about. Have students write the goal down. Have students talk to one another about what the goal means. Goals are powerful, and they're so powerful we shouldn't relegate them simply to beginning the lesson. And then the fourth success principle of clear learning goals is that learning goals, when they're clear enough to really drive focused instruction, are a boon to our assessment ability. When we look back on our teaching and say, okay, who's with me and who's not? Who's progressing well and who do I need to help? You know, how can I make an adjustment to instruction based on how students are doing now? Without clear learning goals, it's awfully hard to make an assessment decision. So those are 4 success principles for dealing with or for using clear learning goals. Let's return and let's do a little bit of think time. And what I'd like to ask you to do is this. Again, the screen will go away. We'll have about 15 seconds. Hit pause. Think about this for as long as you need to. Then hit play again and we'll continue and come in and do a little bit of closure. Here's your thinking time prompt. Take those 4 elements, those 4 success principles of clear learning goals, and generate some specific classroom examples of how you might use one of them, or 2, or maybe you'll have time to do 3, right? How will you use clear verbs? How will you let your clear learning goals pervade the lesson rather than just begin the lesson? How will you link your clear learning goals to your assessments, right? What a good idea that is. And so we're just going to take some think time and come up with some specific applications of clear learning goals to your lessons. See you back in a minute. Welcome back. Thanks for your good work. You know, taking concepts and applying them to the practical aspects of your craft as a teacher is difficult, but you know what? It's also productive. So thanks for taking a moment and thinking through those success principles. You know, one of the things that we know about the effect of goal clarity on classrooms is that even though it's a broad stroke, one of the things we can do to be even better in this area is to consider that there are generally 2 types of classrooms: an activity-centered classroom and a goal-centered classroom. Now, both of those are present in our classrooms every day. An activity-centered classroom, however, is a classroom where my thinking and my planning goes mostly to questions like this. What will I have my students do first? Then what can I have them do second? I need some ways to engage them that will use technology. I need some ways that will help them be collaborative. I need some ways that will work well in a virtual setting. It's just common human nature to think of the activities first. You remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where safety and survival needs come always before self-actualization needs. Well, having activities, having engagements, having things planned for your students is a survival need of a teacher. I mean, honestly, you can survive a day of teaching with no goals. It wouldn't be very productive, but you could do it. I would suggest, though, that none of us can survive a day of teaching with no activities, with no plans, with nothing for students to do. right? As long as we keep them busy and keep them working and keep them enthusiastic and keep them engaged, of course we know there's going to be some learning going on. What we want to do is enhance our classrooms by not only being focused on what students are doing, but focused on the learning goals. And every choice we make from activities or technologies or groupings is made in service to the learning goal, right? Not the activity itself. Thanks a lot for being a part of Missouri Teacher Development System, Artisan Teacher On-Demand Learning Series. Today's focus, clear learning goals. We appreciate your participation. Hope to see you in another episode soon.